Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome back to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. It's me and Caleb and Mikey and Rex, and we are ecstatic to be here tonight, today, this morning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. We're really happy to be here talking about Star Wars yet again. That's what we do here. We talk about stuff. We give our opinions, our Wannabe's honest opinion, and then our Wannabe's honest opinion, our Wannabe's honest opinion. Excuse me.
Wondering if you're.
I've had a few White Claws, so I'm a little sloshed. No, I'm completely fine. I got tongue tied just a little bit. Caleb, don't disown me. All right. How are we feeling this evening, though? Caleb, are you going to be able to make it?
No, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm excited. This is it's a good TV show, so I like talking about it. It'll be good.
It will be good. Mikey, how are you doing?
I'm pretty sure Caleb never laid claim to you, but I'm doing great. I'm doing real good.
That hurts my feelings. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's true, but
yeah,
sorry.
I mean, he doesn't want to. You love me. Just admit it. You love me. Rex, how are you doing?
Good. I'm semi-excited.
Semi-excited? Well, here's the thing. Rex is like the sequel hater. And I think Mikey hates the sequels too. And
I don't hate the sequels.
You don't?
I enjoy the other movies better, but
okay.
I don't think they're awful.
All right. Well, my point was I guess, Rex doesn't like fun. So no, I'm just kidding.
I'm happy to be back on the podcast after our break. So.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, because at this point in time, we have been on a basically just like a 2-week break, but I felt it and it was bad, and I had to basically fill the void in like 20 other projects, but there's just nothing like being on the podcast. You know what I mean? It's the best. It did feel long, right? And I had a guest on, just me and another guest, to kind of bring in 2020 or 2021, excuse me. And it just wasn't the same. You know what I mean? I missed my co-hosts, and I'm glad that you guys are back, and I'm glad to be back here. We are discussing Rebels season 2, 22 episodes, right? 22 episodes this season. Sure. kind of throwing it back, to older Clone Wars days. We used to, back in the 2020 days, we used to record Clone Wars like multiple times a month, and it was a lot. It was too much.
It's too much. But
I do have to say, at this point in time, I see now why people say that they like Rebels more and like Rebels is the better show. But I do also see why people say that you can really have a deeper appreciation for Rebels if you have gone through Clone Wars. I don't think it's necessary to go through Clone Wars necessarily, but I do think it definitely helps with the overall, story. Go ahead, Rex.
What I always hear is that from my friends, is that you appreciate the prequels after you've watched Clone Wars. That's what I always hear.
Yeah, I think it definitely adds to it. I think that's a fair assessment. What do you think, Caleb?
I think it enhances it. And I've been over this a million times. I've gotten into a fight with Mikey about this somewhat recently. But I think a lot of it
was a discrepancy.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever. No, I think Clone Wars does a good job of just basically making Anakin Skywalker a more redeeming character, and it does that through Ahsoka Tano, and that's why it enhances. God, Mikey.
I'm gonna kill you, Mikey. Stop it. Stop it. Caleb, Goose Fraba. That's gonna be.
I didn't even say anything.
Here's the thing. I don't like being confrontational with my Star Wars takes or just any take in life in general.
Are you sure?
I try not to be, but for whatever weird reason, Mikey, you always just get on my you just are like a thorn in my side. But no, that I just cannot get rid of.
He's a knife twister, man. He's been like that since we were kids. He's a button pusher. Whenever he finds your button, he just pushes it. He's all.
I just find those uncomfortable questions.
That
to the bottom of it.
It's just. Like that. No, it's just that Star Wars take that I have, and the reason I keep bringing it up is it's probably like my most firm Star Wars take and belief that I have. Like
about Ahsoka?
I don't know. It's like, yeah, about Ahsoka and about it enhancing Anakin Skywalker. as a character. Because before we reviewed Clone Wars, before we did any of this stuff with The Mandalorian or with Rebels or whatever, a long time ago when I first started doing this with Gabe, we reviewed episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's like 3 of the first episodes that me and Gabe did together. And I said on one of those shows that my problem with these prequels is that Anakin Skywalker is not a relatable or redeemable character. And that's kind of what all of Star Wars is based off of. And then like you watch Clone Wars and it helps that and enhances that and kind of takes care of that in such a better way that it kind of makes up for a lot of that discrepancy that's in those prequels. It makes the whole story of Star Wars better. And that's kind of the point. So that's like my Star Wars take that I feel most strongly about because it fixes a major problem that I have with the Star Wars, like or the Skywalker saga, whatever.
Go ahead, Rex.
Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time with Clone Wars, but do they make him, obviously I haven't finished it, but do they make him like too good guy though? It seems like in the
No.
beginning of Clone
You
Wars,
can kind of tell
no.
he's kind of always like teetering, like
It's
he's kind of
very-
always like, oh, like these are the rules. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I don't want to do that.
It's
But
a very good evolution.
yeah, like he's bordering like anti-hero a lot of the time. It feels like he really enjoys his job is what it feels like he really likes having a purpose, but he doesn't necessarily agree with all of the decisions that are being made. And to Caleb's point, they didn't do a good job of that in the prequels. We were still left with questions as like, oh yeah, there's conflict within you. Like whenever Luke redeems him, it's like, I'm sorry, what? I do not buy it, and it was just kind of, we always took it at face value. And it was, I would have argued, before we watched Clone Wars, it's like, well, Star Wars feels more about Luke than it does Vader, but they kind of go hand in hand. But now since we finished Clone Wars and now we're in Rebels, we see such a bigger picture. And Ahsoka Tano is, call me crazy, maybe this is a hot take, Ahsoka Tano is just as big of a part of Star Wars now at this point as anybody else is. I mean, she's a bigger part than someone like, oh, I don't know, Mace Windu. She's a bigger part of Star Wars and is in more Star Wars stuff than a lot of the people we see on screen. And it's done on purpose. And to Caleb's point, yes, like she 1000% makes Anakin Skywalker's arc more believable because, like you think about like in Return of the Jedi, whenever he's like, oh, I see the conflict within you, or I feel conflict within you. We get something in this Rebels season 2 that can directly prove and like cross-reference that point at the very end of the season. It's like, oh, he probably could have killed Ahsoka, but he didn't. You know what I mean? It was like, he could have. I'm pretty sure if he wanted to, he could have.
I don't know.
He obviously didn't. He didn't kill her.
Well, I mean,
we're gonna get more.
Never
into
mind.
That
we're gonna
eventually.
hold it. We'll hold it. We'll hold it because we're gonna have a
Yeah.
big discussion about it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's
I think
irrelevant.
for me, I don't know. Let's just get into it. Rebels season 2, gentlemen. I'm super excited to talk about this one. And Mikey, I think Mikey hit it the nail on the head. He said before the show started, he's like, the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes are like the meat. And I kind of argue against that a little bit, but it does feel like we just get a lot of character story, in the second season, which I love. And I did like how they kind of expanded on the lore of like kind of building up the rebellion and how like the Ghost Squad was basically kind of, or Phantom Squadron, whatever, was kind of pivotal in that, almost in like a Rogue One sense. I never really even thought about that. And I really like that they've kind of expounded on that. But if ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know already, as I said before, you're listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. I wanted to give a quick shout out really fast to Raise and Pop Cult USA. You can peep our codes down in the description. But let's go around the room and just kind of give our, like positive take, like, do we like this season 2? Yes or no type thing. And we're going to kind of get into the broad discussion. If you know how we do it here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take our favorite points, our least favorite points, and maybe a little bit of speculation, maybe for me, because I haven't seen it yet or, finished it yet. And kind of trying to mimic our structure we had for the Mandalorian, because that was a lot of fun. So Caleb, do you like this season 2?
Yeah, I do. And you're right, and Mikey's right in saying that. Yeah, I know it's crazy, Mikey. No, but you're right. The meat is in those first 2 episodes and those last 2 episodes. But that doesn't mean that like the rest of it is bad. Like if you have a sandwich, the meat is probably the best part, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the veggies and the cheese and the bread and all those individual components. And I think that's the thing that makes this season so good is you could take, a number of these episodes at face value and just watch them by themselves and be entertained by it and have a good time with it. And there's some really cool stuff there. Especially if you're a fan of Clone Wars, because there's a lot that ties in and even ties into the original trilogy. I mean, we get a whole episode where it's, a younger Princess Leia that we've never seen before. Like, it's super, super cool. But I do think that what this season does the best at is character development. And I feel like that's something that Star Wars struggles with at times because, there's only so much character development you can do in a 2-hour long movie where you have so many characters on screen at once and they all are, have these pivotal roles. But here you have the time to be able to develop the characters and give them the time and attention that you need to really actually see them grow. For example, you have that whole episode with Agent Callus and Zeb on an ice planet, and both of them, like, those are two kind of characters that you have kind of a shallow view of because they seem like shallow characters, but with just one episode, you can see like just how much character growth those two characters can have. And I think that this whole season does that quite well. It's really awesome.
I love that take. And yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Mikey, what's your take on season 2?
Solid season. Solid season.
He loved it. He's like, yep, great. That's about it for you. I was gonna say Jesus, like Jesus Christ, man.
You're on a podcast, No, I really liked it. I mean, there's a lot of callbacks to me. I mean, if you've seen Clone Wars, I mean, this is one of the seasons that really like shows you like, oh, that episode is a lot cooler now because I watched this before I watched Clone Wars. So going back through it, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But I don't know. This season is a really good taste of what this show brings when it like gets to its peak, because this is like where Rebels feels better for me than Clone Wars. It's like this for me, basically for the rest of the show, because there's like really high points at the beginning and basically the end of each season with decent, like really good storytelling in between, but most of the action happens towards the beginning and end of each season, which, I mean, I don't mind, but it just makes it feel like an enjoyable TV show, and that's what I'm looking for, whereas Clone Wars was a little more complex and harder to watch, but that's why I like this show, and that's why I like this season a lot.
Well said. I like that. Rex, what's your take? Do you like this season?
Yeah, I think it was a good season. It was okay. It was solid. I watched it over. I kind of spread it out too much, I think. And I kind of lost track of like what was going on halfway through, and it just didn't seem as important when I was in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And there was a few episodes that you guys mentioned that I really liked, like the one with that had Princess Leia, and the one with and I can't even remember his name.
Callus,
yeah. But yeah, just a lot of them I did feel a little bored during some of the episodes. I don't know if it's just because of the animation or what, but some of the episodes they felt a little dry to me. But the good ones really hit pretty good, especially the last two. I just really loved those episodes.
Yeah, I think, everyone's bringing out good points. I think this season does a really good job of like characters, as we said before, and making the characters feel like they matter more. Even Chopper really feels like R2-D2 level in terms of like lovability. I'm like, I didn't know how I felt about it in the first, I might like him more than R2-D2.
I was going to say, some may say he's better than R2.
I mean, it's Dave Filoni, that does the voice, and it's just, he just is call me crazy. He's a good character. He does things, go ahead, Caleb.
Does anyone want to take a guess at how many kills, like what Chopper's kill count is in Star Wars?
I knew you were going to bring up the kill count.
Because it's amazing.
How many is it?
So he has 19 confirmed indirect kills, which for a droid, that's a lot, 19 kills. But he has 49,997 estimated indirect kills using sabotage, and then 20 estimated kills using explosives. He's killed over 50,000 people.
Well, it's insane because I don't know, like, I feel like there's like there's like a certain like kind of like lovability with BB-8. I think it was kind of like, oh, he's cute, you know. Chopper like has a funny personality, you know, like whenever he's going back and forth with Kanan, and you know he's all rah, 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 you know, like doing the thing, and just like kind of the attitude you can hear in his voice. They've done a really good job in like kind of developing him as a character. And I mean, even stuff like with Zeb and you know that whole arc with Hera and her dad and stuff like that. Let's be real, this is a filler season. It's like an entire season of filler, but there's a difference between the filler in this show and the filler in Clone Wars, is that like 90% of the filler in this show calls back to the things that we loved about the Clone Wars, the things that we loved about the original series, and the things that we know are to come later. Like, I don't know how they did that, but like, it's all interesting. All of the side quests, quote unquote, are all interesting. And like, even the Leia episodes were good, or the Leia episode, I was kind of like, oh my God, they're going to do that thing, you know, like where they try and bring it in. And I thought it was really good. And this is kind of driving home to me, this is not a kid's show. I argued with Tristan. He's a friend of the show. Tristan was like, dude, no, Rebels is for kids, TVY7, whatever. I'm like, have you watched it? Because he was trying to crap on it. And I'm like, have you watched it? He said, no, I haven't. I said, then you can't say anything about it because you haven't watched it. This show is like not a kid's show. If you can find a kid who literally can keep track of everything that's going on in this show, I'll kiss you on the mouth. Like, I can't find it. I mean, just the whole thing with even just some of the dialogue between the Inquisitors and like the admirals and stuff like that. Like, a kid's not going to pick that up. Not a 7-year-old. Go ahead, Mikey.
I think that's the main problem with most people who aren't real Star Wars fans, because they just think these are cartoons, Tristan.
Shots fired at Tristan Twitchell.
I'm kidding. I can see I can see where that comes from, because it's a different art style. And I mean, Clone Wars is a different art style too. And I mean, I know he's a big anime fan, but I don't know. I can see the problem with it looking like a kid's show because it is a different type of animation.
Yeah, kind of stiff.
Definitely not.
Yeah, more stiff.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more stiff animation. Go ahead, Rex.
I just want to fight for the Clone Wars. It's like filler episodes. I thought some of the filler was pretty good in the Clone Wars. Because
none of the droid stuff, though, right?
I saw up to season 4.
Oh, good Lord.
So I thought some of the filler was kind of cool with like giving you information like on races and places, planets, animal, like stuff like that. So
sure. And I don't think that's what we're saying. There was definitely, if you go back and listen to those episodes,
completely different.
Yeah, we praise those episodes in a lot of ways, but we're hard on those episodes because we love them. But at the same time, that what I'm getting at is in this show, if you love Star Wars, it doesn't matter. The entire thing is interesting. Like the entire thing, even though it's not like one, like I would say like pretty much the whole overarching story the entire time, which I thought was really kind of lacking in Clone Wars. The biggest thing is they're trying to build the rebellion. You know what I mean? That's like the biggest thing, is like they are trying to enhance the rebellion's strength against the Empire at this point. And they kind of keep that consistent. That's what most of the filler revolves around. And I loved that. But in direct comparison to Clone Wars, and we're not bashing Clone Wars, but in direct comparison, it's like, it just, a lot of times, to Mikey's point, it just felt like, okay, yeah, more Star Wars. Like, why are we here? But, to know, like, for instance, like whenever Hera's like, oh, Ryloth. Yeah, well, I'll take the call. It's like, oh, because that's where she's from. I wouldn't have known that had I not watched Clone Wars. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So, I think it definitely takes the history side of the Clone Wars, like what you're saying, and some of those more fillery parts that really did give you lore definitely have their place and are super beneficial. I totally agree with that. But no, we're not bashing on all of the Clone Wars filler. Was there any like arcs in particular? We're not bashing on all of the Clone Wars filler. There's a lot of it that's not good, but you get what I'm saying. Anything with Jar Jar or droids, get out. Was there anything what was like your guys' favorite part, because obviously we're going to have the big discussion at the end of, you know, regarding the end of the season, but Caleb, you want to kick us off? Like, what was your favorite like side arc of this entire thing?
Excluding the end and the beginning, because it kind of anything surrounding Darth Vader, basically. I would say getting back with Rex and the other clones is really cool. I like seeing that. I like seeing the like Clone Wars ATTE Walker facing up against the AT-ATs and like outmaneuvering them and stuff. That was really cool. I like seeing that and seeing these old clones who have been kind of like retired, as it were, and they're helping out the rebels. And to kind of go along with that, seeing Kanan's distrust of them too, because the last time he saw clones, they were trying to kill him. Yeah. And then you kind of see that over the course of the next few episodes, Kanan and having to build up his trust in Rex and their relationship building. I thought it was a really cool little part. And then other than that, I'd say my other favorite episode is the episode with Zeb and Agent Kallus, where they're stranded together, just because of just how much character development goes into that episode is really, really cool.
Just how much they're able to fit together in 20 minutes. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, you really made me like, I hated both of these characters. I hope, you know, I could have cared less. Like Zeb was just kind of like, yeah, he's there. And, you know, and even Ezra kind of like jokes about, is like, yes, we have to go back for him, Chopper. You know what I mean? Like, we're not leaving him behind. We're all kind of feeling that way, but they did a really good job of like kind of showing that, you know, and being like, oh, you know, Kallus isn't just a bad guy, you know. And I think for me, and Mikey, I'm gonna throw it to you in a minute, but I think for me that episode was kind of touching a little bit on why I like the sequel trilogy so much, is because the bad guys are relatable in a lot of ways, and like everyone thinks that what they're doing is the right thing, but at the end of the day, they're not quite sure as to why they're doing this thing. They're just like, this seems like the right thing to do. You know what I mean? And I think being able to kind of sympathize with both sides, it's like, all right, well, you're gonna have to figure it out eventually. But at the end of the day, everyone thinks that what they're doing is right, and they can't really explain why. But I really liked that episode for that. Mikey, what was like your favorite? Did you have any more, Caleb? About like, were those like your two biggest ones?
Yeah, those are my two biggest ones, and yeah, I love that episode. It's called The Honorable Ones, and yeah, it's cool to see these two characters who throughout the series up to this point have been kind of pitted against each other, and you know, there's some definite personal tension there because of Agent Kallus's hand in the destruction of Zeb's like homeworld. But the fact that they're able to kind of forgive each other, and when they part ways on pretty like decent terms after like coming in and basically just wanting to kill each other, and then they're put in a situation where they have to work together, and they're able to forgive each other in the end. And I love that at the end, like Agent Kallus sees the love that the Ghost crew has for Zeb, and that they came back for him and rescued him. And then he's like, basically, once he gets back onto his like cruiser and goes in, and he's like in his like basically prison cell of a room, and there's like no one cares, and he's been like reprimanded by his like, you know, commanding officer and all this stuff. And it's just like, you can really tell he's like, well, he's rethinking all of his decisions. He's like, well, I thought I was on the right side of this thing, but maybe I wasn't. And I thought that was a really cool, you know, little thing. Is it can be like a wake-up call of where, you know, you could be so kind of like, you think what you're doing is right, and then you kind of have this eye-opening thing where it's like, oh no, I'm just seeing things wrong. And then, you know, yeah, you realize that you have to change. But I thought that was a really cool and kind of deep thing that they put into that episode, and I thought it was really cool. And I mean, there's some other really good episodes. The one where they have to go into the Jedi temple is really interesting episode. The one with Princess Leia obviously is really interesting. There's some really good episodes in here.
There's good stuff for sure. Mikey, what was your like favorite arcs of this season?
I mean, probably the Rex stuff, and getting back with that crew. That was probably my favorite. I mean, because it didn't really mean a lot to me, because the first time I watched it, because I had only watched so much. I knew who Rex was, I knew that crew was, but I didn't know who the individual guys that survived were. And watching that again is pretty awesome for me. And then in the Jedi Temple too, seeing the what's his face, the Inquisitor,
yeah,
turn out to be the Guardian, and then like what questions that brings, because you're not sure if that means he was good in the past, or he was like good at his core, or like I don't know. Like I'm curious to see what if that gets answered, because I don't remember if it does in this show, to be honest. But that's a big question in my mind.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I've always heard of it. It's kind of implied that he was a temple guard, and
But like
that's kind of
before,
the thing with all. That's the kind of the thing with all the Inquisitors, is that they're all former Jedi that have just
Really?
been like used and kind of tortured. And you kind of see that in like Jedi Fallen Order with one of the Inquisitors, where she's been picked up and then tortured. Sorry, Rex. I'm spoiling
Yeah, I
things.
haven't finished it either.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing with the Inquisitors, is that they're all like these former fallen Jedi who basically have just been like, well, this is the only way I can survive. It's either this, I do this or I die. And yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I think the lore of the Inquisitors and like just the whole idea of the Inquisitors is some of the best stuff in Star Wars, honestly. Like, because we always had this idea of like, well, what happened? And it makes Jedi Fallen Order seem way more appealing, because I never knew the backstory with the Inquisitors and what they were and like what they were doing. But now I see that thing, and it's like, oh, that's those guys in Fallen Order. I never knew anything about it because, I had kind of closed myself off basically just to the main movies. And as like, I just wasn't quite into it. You know what I mean? And I think they're so like on one side or the other with the fan base. Like the fan base is as on one side or the other whenever it comes to there being more Jedi or, like Sith basically after, after a certain point, or like, did Vader have disciples and things like that? But when you think about it, like that's basically what the Sith used to be in the Old Republic, as an army of Sith. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. And I think, I don't know, there's probably some bylaw in the Sith code or something to where these aren't his direct apprentices. You know what I mean? Like he's just using them as tools, basically. I don't know. I'm sure we'll get more, but it answered my main question, because I thought it was like, oh, if there's only one Inquisitor, you know what I mean? Like, because he died in the last one, or in the last season. So it's kind of interesting to see how many there were, and I'm curious to see how many more were, because the three in this season die. I mean, they get killed by freaking the old master. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be interested to see, how many more Inquisitors we actually have. But Rex, was that all you had, Mikey?
Yeah, for the most part.
Rex, what was like your favorite?
I had totally forgot about the Captain Rex arc, and I really thought that was pretty awesome. Not only does he have like the best name ever, but he's a pretty cool character. But yeah, his arc was probably one of my favorite, if we're not talking about, the real meat of the season. Because Darth Maul showing up was pretty cool. And I liked the how he kind of like tricked Ezra and kind of tried to make him his own Padawan or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And seeing him again from like, I really need to finish Clone Wars, because I know I'm missing so much with Maul.
Like the fifth season, dude. Like
if you stopped at 4, you're basically right before everything takes off with Darth Maul.
Like right before everything gets awesome for him.
5 and 7. Like, man, if you haven't watched the last 4 episodes of 7 yet, oh, you're missing out.
For real. You got to watch it.
Just,
he's got a lot of stuff to watch. You know what I mean? He's got Clone War, or he's got Rebels. He's got the movies each week. We got the Midnight Run.
I'm gonna make a pact. By the end of this year, I will finish it.
By the end of 2020.
Next
year.
You
got about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
No kidding.
Next year.
Good stuff. I have a question for Rex too. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, there's a lot of other things I liked throughout the season, though. Chopper's episode, like you mentioned, I thought that was really cool and kind of broke up the episodes a bit, and it was cool to see his personality kind of shine and make friends with that other droid. That was interesting. The Sith Inquisitors, their helicopter lightsabers, I thought was kind of stupid.
Yeah, I did too. Honestly, I keep fighting with that in my mind. I'm like, Filoni, what's your problem? Like, this is not Star Wars. I mean, I guess if you're trying to innovate on something you love, and I mean, I guess you could kind of attribute that to
It's
like
hard.
the
Yeah.
kid show aspect. It's like, I guess that makes sense, but if it ever shows up in live action, I'm gonna punch my TV.
You see, that was like the one thing that kind of took away from like two perfectly perfect episodes of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, like you had the droid Inquisitor. You're telling me she didn't have like some sort of like drone that could, that they could stand on, or they could maneuver that place. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? It just, yeah, I'm right there with you, Rex. I had a question for you too, Rex, because you watch more animated stuff than probably anyone that I know. Um, how do you feel about the animation in the show?
It's the probably one of the better 3D animations that I've seen, because for me, any anime that has 3D animation, it's really hard to watch because their movements are really just non-lifelike and they feel alien. And this one does a pretty decent job. Probably one of the better ones that I've seen, off the top of my head. So it's not bad. It's just still 3D animation for me, which
Yeah.
it has a few issues.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. Like, to me, when like that whole thing with Rex, there were times like whenever they were like running around where it kind of felt like VeggieTales a little bit. You guys remember VeggieTales? I was like, this just looks kind of like, just looks sloppy. I'm sorry, there's no other word for it. But I can't really think of too many things that I take away from the season. We talked about the helicopter lightsabers and how stupid that was. And then, I think the animation can kind of miss every once in a while, but was there anything in the season before we kind of get into like the last two episodes? Was there anything in the season that you guys just didn't like? Caleb, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, it's funny. The only thing I can really think of is the helicopter lightsabers, and which is really silly because that's like not that big of a deal, and it's in like two of my favorite episodes of the season. But no, there's nothing that really sticks out. I mean, maybe I'm just nothing's coming to mind, but like I don't know. It all seems pretty good. I don't have too many complaints.
Okay. Mikey, what about you?
I kind of actually have I want to touch on the lightsaber thing because I've always wondered. I know they touch on this in like the expanded universe, but being a force user, doesn't that mean you could technically fly if you were like strong enough? Because I know they touch on it in some books and comics and stuff, but I've never read them. But I've always wondered because I know that I'm pretty sure there's at least one Jedi that can technically fly, right? Am I crazy on that, or have I heard that somewhere?
All I'm saying is that if it ever becomes canon, Mace Windu has to be alive. Like, has to be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, that is one thing. Like force users can soften their like blows and from like, their falls and stuff. Like that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, that's definitely canon.
And they can definitely leap like long distances. Now I'm just envisioning like a Jedi with wings. Like
yeah, right. Well, I mean, a lightsaber, if they could do it with enough force to give them loft. I mean, I don't know. It's believable to me because I mean, I don't know. I've seen crazier things, I guess, but
yeah, I mean, I guess
if they're Darth Vader's Inquisitor, they have to be pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, because he'd probably be like, "All right, your M count's not high enough. I'm striking you down," type thing. And you ever think about how like literally they've tried, like that's still a thing. M count is still a thing. You ever think about how powerful Vader could have become had he not lost all of his limbs? Because I'm serious. Your M count determines like your M count determines how strong you are, like with the Force. So the fact that he's as strong as he is kind of crazy.
But like what else impedes how strong you are with the Force for Anakin?
A freaking metal suit.
No, if you had the high ground.
Shots fired against Anakin.
If
Skywalker.
your name is Rey, you're a god.
Oof. Anyways, my other problem.
Hey, you know what? No, we're doing it. Rex,
all right.
Here's the thing. Everyone complains about Rey piloting, doing the Force, everything. Anakin Skywalker did it. And also freaking Luke Skywalker did it. Anakin was a kid. It's like, oh, he can do pod races. So apparently he can freaking fly a Naboo cruiser and blow up the space station and save the day. It's like, okay, whatever. Well, it's fine. I'm not done.
Oh, I know.
Luke Skywalker, I gotta go take the power converter. Satoshi Station, you know, he can fly a speeder, sure, but then he blows up the Death Star at the end of A New Hope with relatively no flight training whatsoever. So he's naturally talented there. It's not so crazy to believe that Rey, she could, I mean, obviously she knew how to do, she had very little knowledge, but she knew how to maneuver it. So now it's the same thing. It's just been modernized. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say about that. Go
No,
ahead,
can I
Caleb.
can I
Sorry.
can I speak? Considering that I watched A New Hope 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, no, it's not the same. And I like the sequel trilogies. I like The Force Awakens. I think it's a good movie. I think it might be the best out of those three, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. But anyways, no, it's different. Rey's different than Luke. Like her progressive, and here's why. Luke doesn't have a lightsaber battle with a Sith Lord until the end of episode 5, and Darth Vader beats him. Rey has a battle with Kylo Ren at the end of episode 7, her first movie, after it's like her first time ever wielding a lightsaber, and beats him. It's completely different.
Okay, hold on.
Totally different.
I have a counterpoint to that. So martial arts masters actually say that since it is a bladed weapon, it uses very similar skill sets. So it's not crazy to think that she could be naturally skilled with a lightsaber because she's literally wielded that staff the entire time and has been alive. I'm just saying. I'm just for the sake of argument. Mikey, you've been freaking out, like having a seizure over there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I talked to Gabe about this, but have you guys ever heard about the Luke Skywalker hand theory?
Oh, that it's his hand still attached to the lightsaber
Yes.
that's controlling her.
But in the expanded universe, Palpatine gets a hold of that. And so a rumor that has been going around is that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are going to make canon that Rey is partially a Skywalker, and that Palpatine got a hold of that hand and used his DNA and Palpatine's DNA, put it together, made his son, and then he made her. So technically, she's a Skywalker. So technically, if Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker can do that, so can she. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I mean, that would clean it up a little bit.
Here's the thing too, and to Caleb's point, it is not exactly the same, but I do see how they could have like I feel like they tried to modernize it, but they went too far. But the logic behind it's the exact same, at least for Anakin. Anakin was a kid. Anakin was 10 years old. Go ahead, Caleb.
Another thing with both Anakin and Luke, they do get some form of training from a Jedi. Whether it's Luke with Obi-Wan on the Millennium Falcon, getting some sort of training from a Jedi, or whether it's Anakin, he's around Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon that entire first movie, and we don't see him do anything other than win the pod racing and blow up the Naboo, like the ship over Naboo. But like that's different than like fighting. You know, if he was out there as a kid fighting Darth Maul, everyone would be like, "Oh, that's weird. Like that doesn't make any sense." And then the next time we see him using a lightsaber is in episode 2 when he's a teenager. What I'm getting at is Rey did not have any sort of training from any sort of force wielder until she shows up on that island with Luke Skywalker at the end of episode 7, and that's after she fought somebody with a lightsaber. Like that's after she fought Kylo Ren. Like, come on, it's a continuity error, and it's I think probably might be the biggest problem with those movies. Maybe.
Yeah. And if you want to do like history too, and like really like match up fact for fact, go Rex. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rex. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that I don't really have a big problem with Rey in episode 7 as much as the other two. But I don't know. I kind of want to save all my points if we ever do, the sequel trilogies. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to get too far into it because there's so much just on Rey we could talk about.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean,
But I just want to put it out there that I actually 7 was my most favorite of the sequels.
Okay. Well, I can appreciate that. Mikey, go ahead.
I just want to point out that Anakin didn't have any training in pod racing. It was all natural.
Yep.
And neither did Luke with his, I forget what he calls it, racing in the desert, what he used to race all the time.
The swoop bikes. No.
Yeah.
No.
And he had, or whatever, he had natural talent there. The same natural talent using the force of quick reactions with racing, applying that to fighting, I don't think is a big leap. So if Rey has that same quick reaction thing and can automatically fly the Millennium Falcon, I mean, I think that is what they were kind of leaning into.
They were
And
trying. Yes. They were
So-
trying to, but here's the thing. They didn't do it with just some random ship. They did it with the
Yeah.
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest mistake. If it would have been just some random ship, we wouldn't have been complaining. But
Yeah.
the fact that they took liberties with a ship that we love and we saw her do it, because Mikey, I'm sorry, like I agree with Mikey. Like if she has been protecting herself this entire time, because that was something that I struggle with too, but I've been like researching it, and it's like that form of fighting, it's very similar. So, you know, and I guess it is the thing of too, just to kind of see her like basically untouched in that fight with Kylo Ren is a bit of a stretch. They leaned into it too much is the problem. And you know, we've gotten way off topic of the main thing, but go ahead. Sorry, Mikey.
It's the Jar Jar effect.
Oh my
No,
god.
it's the force powers for me. That's where Luke gets training and Anakin gets training and Rey does not. And they portray her more like stronger than almost both of them in those movies.
How much training
And
did Luke really have though on screen,
Not
realistically?
much. Not much.
Not much, but he
At least
did
they
have
showed
enough. And he had
some.
Obi-Wan. He had Obi-Wan in his ear even while he was flying against the Death Star.
All he was saying was, "Use the force." It was just a reminder
Luke.
set by Siri to use the force.
Luke.
By the way,
Luke. I just someone made a good point. Is like, look, we don't see a lot of on-screen training. All of Luke's training with Yoda is all off-screen. Like we saw, and a lot of Rey's training is all off-screen as well. And I guess the timing does kind of match up. But I think at the end of the day, the point that they were trying to make is like there is natural talent there with very little training. It's still present, and they were trying to continue that. It just maybe wasn't as well executed as it still could have been. But the logic is still the same. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, and I mean, we probably shouldn't continue down this rabbit hole too much farther, but I'm kind of curious to go back and watch episode 7 and see at what point in the movie did we even get the hint that she was force sensitive? I don't think it was until like pretty late into the movie.
Yeah. It needs to be
Like-
fresh in my mind for me to talk about that.
Well, and this
Yeah.
is a good time to say, depending on when this comes out, you can look forward to later this year whenever we tackle the Skywalker saga in its entirety as an entire podcast group. And it is kind of interesting because, yes, Caleb and I did go through it, and Jace, and yes, I did compare A New Hope to Attack of the Clones. I did do that.
Jeez.
I did say that I would never need to watch A New Hope again. The same way I never need to watch Attack of the Clones again. I can tell you, after absorbing more Star Wars lore and having more fun doing so, I'm ready to open myself back up, and I'm ready to say that I'm probably wrong. I'm just saying. There's that. Go ahead, Rex.
I can't wait till we do the Skywalker series. So
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
Gonna be fun.
it's gonna be the best.
But I think it was actually your turn, Rex, to kind of talk about what you weren't crazy about this season.
Oh yeah, what Star Wars thing are we talking about tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was Rebels, right?
Yeah.
Spinny lightsaber flying vehicles.
Yeah.
Beams of light that propel you into the air. Yeah, that's a big negative for me. And the other negative of this season, I feel, is the Rebel fleet. I just feel like what they're doing is somewhat washed and repeated and has been done in lots of other things that we've seen. And it just doesn't make me care as much. And that is one big issue I have with this season.
Okay. Like you just feel like it's been overdone so much, like with Rogue One, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy, like
I don't know
feeling of like the rebels, like basically the Republic feeling like rebels in the prequel trilogy. Like, is that what you're talking about? It just feels too played
they're
out.
They're always on the run, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like at that point in time, I would like to see them maybe building more, and I don't know, kind of seeing more of how that whole thing came together and how they rose up. But it just seems like they're on the run, at least right now.
Yeah.
And they're
And
really small.
maybe it's also because of everything I've already seen Star Wars related,
Yeah.
where they do that a lot. Yeah,
I do think it was kind of easy to just dismiss it. You know what I mean? I liked that it was there. There was consistency, but it was almost like I kind of put it out of my mind at a certain point. I was like, okay, yeah, like the Rebels, they're trying to build the thing, you know, they're trying to like build the fleet bigger. And that's kind of, is it Ghost Squad or Phantom Squad? I'm sorry.
It's I mean, they're on the Ghost, but it's Phantom Squadron.
Okay. Yeah. So like the Phantom Squadron, like them kind of being like a vanguard of sorts to like kind of get things done and like kind of be like a key piece in the rebellion is cool. It is a cool piece of lore, but I'm kind of with you on that, Rex. Like I feel like it's been kind of like rinsed in. That idea has been rinsed and repeated so many times, especially whenever, you know, you're chasing someone through the galaxy and lobbing lasers because you're out of gas. I did watch The Last Jedi recently, and that is retarded. Like,
Dude, I tried to argue that with you so much.
I can see it. I watched it, and
Good Lord.
I'm almost ready to talk about it again, you guys. I'm almost ready to talk about it. Go ahead, Caleb.
I do have to say this season did come out actually before Rogue One did. And I think that might kind of help with that like issue, because I think, you know, now that we've seen Rogue One, we kind of see, you know, the Alliance finally like kind of uniting. It gets really big all at once. And in Rogue One, like they are big enough to where they can carry out strikes, and they have a ton of X-Wings and all these fighters and a huge base and everything. But I think that they're like still kind of, yeah, they're building like just super slowly up to that. And it just seems like such a small little thing compared to even, you know, that force that eventually is on Yavin 4. It just seems tiny compared to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I can see it in the grand scheme how you have like this super duper slow progression. Because really, I mean, doesn't Rebels kind of classify as being in part of the Skywalker saga technically? I mean, when you think about it, I guess it's kind of in that realm of time.
Well, I mean, Leia's in it, so
Yeah, I mean, Leia Organa, not Leia Skywalker, because she's adopted. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. That was a really I'm so sorry.
Technically.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Actually-
I think those excuse me, boys. I think that, you
Those
know,
TikToks.
yeah, exactly. I think the you know, the building blocks are kind of all there, and I think that's all they're trying to do with the show. You know, it feels kind of overplayed, but that's because we've seen it so much. And at the end of the day, it just is another building block. Go ahead, Rex.
Just at least it makes sense and it's there. It's just a little boring to me. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's well said. It's well said. Well, I think we've kind of gotten most of it out. Let's try to transition to the end of the season and into the show. The big reveal, the big fight at the end of the season. Leia says, or not Leia, Yoda says, "Hey, you got to go to Malcor." And you know, Ezra is like, who's Malcor? It's like, oh, Malcor is a planet. Turns out it's a Sith temple there, but it's not a Sith temple. It's a Sith weapon. And you know, Yoda told him to go there to seek knowledge, essentially. So that's why he's there. But little does he know that they're going to run into not only an Inquisitor, but why is an Inquisitor there? Is he expecting the Phantom Squadron, or is he expecting someone else? Come to find out, he is in fact hunting who they call the Shadow, which in fact is one Darth Maul. So over the course of 2 episodes, Maul is basically trying to take Ezra. They get separated. You know, Ezra gets separated and he sees Maul, and Maul basically kind of guides him, tells him to play into his emotions, play into his anger, you know, use that. And you know, but there's a certain likability about Maul in this in these 2 episodes on purpose, I think. Because the entire time I was watching this, I'm questioning his motives, and my eyes are glued to the screen. I'm like, I've never seen Maul like this before, ever, you know. Which was a really interesting thing. But come to find out by the end of it, he hasn't changed, and he has kind of turned into the epitome of a Sith himself. You know, when you think about it, that was a very Sithy thing to do. And then lo and behold, you know, once the weapon is activated, it's been found. Darth Vader shows up and he's like, you know, like, you found the weapon for me. And Ahsoka Tano's there, of course, and then they have it out. So it's quite a jumble of activity, within a 45-minute period, and a lot happens. I mean, it flies by so fast. But God, is it awesome. It's so cool. And I loved every second of it. So what do you guys say we take just a small break and then we'll kind of get into the last little part of the show?
Sounds good.
You hear this, gentlemen?
White claws are for girls.
Caw, caw. It's the claw. You know what I mean? Hey, let me ask you something, Rex. Have you had the mango white claw?
I
Not
haven't
good.
touched a white claw.
So shut
Good-
up. You don't have a dog in the
good
fight. You don't know.
man.
You don't know what you're talking
What do you
about.
mean? I've had some flavored bubbly water.
It's not the same.
Dude, it's so
I've-
bad.
I like seltzer.
Bud Light
I
seltzer.
had a sip of a White Claw once and decided that this is the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth, and I've never touched one since.
Truly's is the way to go.
Trulies are too like juicy. They give me heartburn. You know what I mean? I think
Too juicy as in too much flavor.
no, the flavor is delicious. I do like the way it tastes, and I think flavor wise they are better than White Claws, but they give me heartburn. Like
Wow.
they really do. But the mango White Claws, they're like my drink of choice.
It's probably all that
love it.
carbonation, man.
No, dude. I think White Claws are carbonated more personally.
I think just carbonation in general.
Might be giving me heartburn.
Maybe.
White Claws don't give me heartburn.
Do they?
They don't. Anyways, we're not here talking about White Claw. And you know what? Don't knock it till you try it, Rex. All right. I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't hate on my beverage of choice until you try a mango White Claw. Please do. So to kind of round out the show, kind of go into our discussion, and we can go as deep or as non-deep as you guys want. But how do we feel about these last two episodes? There's a lot here. Caleb, you wanna kick us off?
Yeah, no, I think they're really, really, really good. I love everything to do with Maul, because it is interesting how they take this character who we know is evil and they make him seem like redeemable to the point to where even if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan and you know who Maul is and everything about his character, to where your question is like, man, is he going to team up with them? Is he going to is he coming around? Like all of this different stuff. And they kind of sell it to you really well. And then at the end, when he turns, it's like, oh man, it's like, it was there. It was all a ruse the whole time. And I thought that was really cool. And it's interesting to see Ezra kind of, gravitate towards that. It's very interesting for his character, and definitely is kind of it's a major red flag, I think, for Kanan to see that. But yeah, there's a lot that kind of happens here too. I love that realization that Ahsoka has when Maul shows up is like, oh, like crap, like that's Maul. Like it's a cool realization, and then immediately having to just be like, all right, well, we're fighting together against these Inquisitors because the enemy of my enemy or is my friend, type of deal. So I thought it was really cool. And then the whole thing with Vader, from the second he descends standing on top of his TIE Advanced and it is fighting Ezra, and Ezra is trying to fight Vader, and you can tell Vader's just kind of toying with him. And then his fight with Ahsoka and just the emotion that's kind of behind it, because Ahsoka's been dealing with this for the whole season of coming to realize that Vader is Anakin, and realizing that Anakin survived and he's turned into something terrible, and then fighting it out there. And when she slices his helmet and you can see inside, you can see it's Anakin in there, and you feel like she's trying to redeem him. She's trying, and he's just not there yet. And he's like, you will die. He's at that point, he's not redeemable yet. And it's so interesting, so crazy. And it's really awesome. Every single part about those last two episodes is just peak Star Wars, and I love it.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of piggyback off you for a second, we kind of talked about, in the outset of the show about how Luke was like, I see the conflict within you. Ahsoka very well could have been one of the things that made that redeemable quality, or, that redeeming a little bit easier, having that fight with her and having to come to terms with yeah, this is how things are. There's no way he couldn't have not felt something. You know what I mean? And that very well could have been one of the things that made Luke say oh, I definitely feel conflict within you. This has been within you for a long time. it's not just because of me. There's a lot of things, and who knows what else. I mean, there's stuff in the Vader comics, and there's a lot of things that could play into that idea of him wanting to be redeemed, or really deep down inside wanting to do the right thing. But it's just like, man, what's, the desire to do good is there, but like the bad presence is there. And it's easier to be bad than kind of confront your demons and like kind of confront all the things that are wrong with you. And yeah, I agree with you. The part with the whole Ahsoka thing, it just guts me, man. It's so sad. Mikey, what's your take on these last 2 episodes?
Sorry, my muke was muted. My mic was muted. I mean, I really like them. I mean, if you don't like these, I don't understand why you wouldn't. I mean, it has Darth Maul, Ahsoka, Darth Vader, and then all of the characters getting the high point of the season. I mean, I don't know. It's probably one of my favorite episodes of this series, to be honest. But just what comes after this and is all based off of this moment, I absolutely love it.
Which I still have don't spoil anything.
I know that I'm trying to dance around it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But
I have a question for you, Mikey.
Okay.
So like, I know you're a big Maul fan, right?
Yeah.
I think we all are. Do you feel like Maul has kind of become just as big of a part of the Star Wars universe as, say, someone like Obi-Wan or even like Anakin or Ahsoka? Is he as big of a character there? What do you think? And everyone can kind of weigh in on this.
Yes. I'm just going to say yes and not say anything else about it because I want to talk to you more about it. But yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I think that as big of a part of as Ahsoka, it's close, and I think that's a better argument than Obi-Wan. And that the reason I say that is because Obi-Wan has a lot more screen time in the actual live action movies.
That's a better one.
In animated than Maul does in either. And he's just Obi-Wan's closer, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Because of him being in those live action movies.
Sure. Go ahead, Mikey.
I feel like with how much exposure Ahsoka got in Clone Wars compared to Maul, we get the Ahsoka amount of exposure for Maul in this series and flip it basically with Ahsoka.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job of just kind of sprinkling Ahsoka in there, for the right moments. And I feel like, those
which
Mandalorians,
is what they did with Darth Maul in Clone Wars.
Sure, yeah. And I think that kind of those Mandalorian moments kind of shine through there, like in terms of sprinkling in, the Bo-Katan, the Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, you can definitely see kind of the foundation of that in this show. It's Filoni magic at its best. Go ahead, Rex.
I'm sorry. Who are you comparing? Obi-Wan and who?
Well, I was saying I said a bunch of people. I was saying has Maul really achieved the status of like Ahsoka? Or, is he as big of a character in Star Wars lore as like someone like Ahsoka or Obi-Wan or Luke Skywalker or stuff like that? Obviously, Luke Skywalker is a kind of a broad one, but I have a controversial comparison for you. Is Darth Maul as big of a character as Yoda?
No.
Again, I think it goes down to exposure and the live action.
Yeah.
Where it would be no.
Yeah, and also you maybe want to take into account expanded universe stuff because you probably get a lot more Obi-Wan than any of those characters in expanded universe. But I think Maul has a big reputation and as a strong fighting Sith, force wielder, whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I would say that Maul is probably going to be on the same level as Boba Fett after we get the Book of Boba Fett series, just in their amount of exposure and importance to the story and kind of iconicness in Star Wars, just because I feel like that's kind of the same and just kind of the aura that's around that character. It'll be around the same as them, and they're both awesome characters. And I'm glad that we're getting a Boba Fett series, but I think it'll be some around the same there. In this conversation is making me think, man, it'd be so fun to just go through and rank in importance all of the Star Wars characters.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Like who's the most important? Because it does boil down to the thing of who's more important. Is Luke or Anakin more important? You know what I mean? Like
We're gonna
That'd
have
be
to
a fun
set some
one.
guidelines on that one.
Mikey,
Or
you don't-
Ray.
Just which characters? Because there's so many characters that you could say are important in some.
Just
you know what I mean?
everybody's top
No.
10 most important characters. And
Nope's
stuff.
That's a
gotta
good
be
one.
the
I
most
like
important.
that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, top 10. Like, what is? Well, no, we'd have to agree. Like, we'll talk. My people and get in touch with people. We'll set some parameters, and then like we'll have a definitive like wannabe
You are
critic
my people.
podcast. We'll have a definitive wannabe critic podcast list of top 10 most important characters in Star Wars. But no, I wanted to know. I kind of forgot what we were talking about. Oh, I know. I mean, we were talking about Darth Maul. I just kind of threw that question out there. But Rex, did you have a point? You were kind of like raising your hand, and I was trying to get to you.
No, I think I said everything about the comparison.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, so you said everything. What do you think of these last 2 episodes?
I thought they were the best of the season. And mainly for me, it was seeing a Sith temple. That was really cool. And we don't get a lot of that in Star Wars content.
It's
so
in
seeing-
Rise of Skywalker, just saying. I love you, Rex. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go
overall,
ahead. I know. I'm
overall,
playing
that's a
devil's
lot.
advocate. You know I love you.
And so seeing that was really cool, and like just how it works with the Sith holocron and everything. I thought that was really cool to visualize that. And obviously Maul's part was really interesting to see him kind of trick them, and it really makes you think like, okay, maybe he is gonna like ally with them.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? I mean,
That's kind of what I thought. I mean, Sam
Yeah.
Witwer killed it. You know what I mean? Did anyone else I'm sorry, was that everything?
no, also Darth Vader coming in on top of his TIE fighter was probably like one of the coolest moments.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Pretty
I mean, it was like, it's crazy just to think about like, yeah, Anakin's like dead. You know what I mean? Like, anytime Vader's on screen, like, nah, dude, that's not Anakin. Like, Anakin's not in there anywhere.
I
He's
love how
the
they
boogeyman.
repeated that.
I'm
You
sorry,
know?
what'd you say? Go ahead.
I love how they repeated that he repeated that Anakin's dead.
Yeah.
It's like they always drive that point in.
Yeah, I love that. And it's fun making the separation. Go ahead, Mikey.
For me though, that makes me feel like Anakin's still alive inside of him, because could you not see Anakin doing something like that in the Clone Wars? Just like having his ship just rolling up and he's just ready.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Kind of that swagger, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just
yeah.
like you're like I'm about to destroy you guys. But
Well,
like
and-
that, it's the
Yeah.
same. He can still. I like that because it make him feel like he's still the same person. But
And
just
Peak
They-
Darth Vader, right?
yeah,
Yeah, totally. And I think they do. I mean, this is like comic Darth Vader to me. They
Mm-hmm.
do a really good job of like kind of playing into the fact that Anakin loved, like we were talking about before, Anakin loved his job in the Clone Wars. Like he loved being a part of something, and he loved having that power, kind of being top dog. And they play into that even more. Like he's almost like a boogeyman of sorts. You know what I mean? You don't think of him as like the law. He's like the Grim Reaper. You know what I mean? And it's like, if he shows up, yeah, exactly. When it says it to Ezra, he's like, you'll die braver than most. But his Anakin humor is still kind of there. He's like, maybe not actually. You know what I mean? You're a little whelp. And yeah, I mean, it's just such a cool character. Yeah, I love whenever he's swooping out and the lights on. That detail they added, like with that headlight being on in there. I don't know why that stuck out to me. I liked the way that looked. One thing I wanted to bring out just really fast before we kind of like, give our score on this season and stuff, and all that stuff. Did you guys notice? I was thinking about whenever him and Ezra, evidently, Maul is still very much in shape. He's trying to like play like the old guy thing, but he's evidently very much still in shape, very much still a force wielder, very much can still do the thing. Does anyone know why he was struggling to help Ezra so much with, whenever he was like throwing him with the force and stuff like that? Like, he's a force user, so what's the deal? Like, why can't he, keep up? Go ahead, Mikey.
I mean, maybe he's trying to hide himself from the Force. I mean, like, if they're looking for him, I mean, he could have cut himself off. I mean,
Could
that
be.
might be a Sith thing to do.
Could be, and I don't know the facts. I'm just going off
Me
of
either.
like I'm going off of logic. Go ahead, Rex.
Yeah.
Rex, you had your hand up, right?
Yeah, I think he was kind of faking it a little bit, but also I just wanted to point out, didn't his lightsaber look a little different?
I mean, that's from the Clone Wars. You need to get
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, fun fact for you guys: Darth Maul is not a very strong Force user. So, in those moments, whenever he's trying to help Ezra like lift up those boulders and stuff, and they're struggling, obviously Ezra is still learning, but he's attuned to the Force. You know, he's coming into his own as a Jedi, and in those moments, those moments of Maul struggling are genuine because in lore he's not a very strong Force user. He's just a very very strong fighter. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that they thought it good to like kind of put those bits in there. And like those moments whenever you see him like, oh no, trust me, he's trying to get Ezra to trust him there. That's a genuine moment as well. But maybe there is kind of a sense of he's not quite confident in himself. He's like, I actually don't know if I can do this. You know what I mean? We haven't really seen him use the Force a ton in a lot of different areas. You know what I mean? Like in a lot of different stuff. I mean, I guess in that fight with Pre Vizsla, I mean, he kind of used the Force a little bit, I think, if I remember. But he's not very strong as a Force user. Go ahead, Caleb.
I would tell you to go back and rewatch those last couple episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars, specifically when he's been broken out of the ship and he's just tearing through clones without a lightsaber. He's strong. He's strong enough with the Force. He's on the same. He killed Qui-Gon Jinn, and that was way earlier. So he's strong enough with the Force. But
he killed Qui-Gon Jinn coming out completely unscathed.
Yeah.
Until
until it happened. Go ahead, Rex.
I just want to point out that using the Force to like pick up objects and like heavy things seems to be like it really weighs on people. It's really hard. It was struggle for Yoda to lift up an X-wing out of the water in Dagobah.
Right.
So it's like it seems like it really uses a lot of their strength, unless you're Rey.
Oh my God.
Unless you're Rey killing Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Whatever. We're not going back there. Yeah, I mean, it's just from things that I'd read, and I'm not saying that he's weak in the Force. I'm just saying like those moments of him like showing struggle very much could have been genuine, especially if he had cut himself off from the Force to kind of hide when you think about it. I mean, I don't know. I've always found that kind of bit of lore to be interesting.
Maybe he's tired, Caleb.
Yeah, maybe he's just a tired boy. Yeah, it is what it is. But so let's kind of talk about the end there. Whenever Ahsoka closes the door on Ezra, Phantom Squadron escapes, and we see Vader and Ahsoka go their separate ways. We see Ahsoka walk out, and we see Vader walk out. What's that mean? What's the symbolism there? What are they trying to get us to understand? What do you guys think? I mean, this isn't fact. I'm just this is going purely off of speculation.
I think it's mostly foreshadowing to the future of kind of, I think it's leaving a lot of just like you going like, what? Like, and I think a lot of that is going to get answered in the future.
Are you saying like since you finished the show, that it's going to get answered in the future?
Mikey?
Go ahead, Mikey.
At the time when I watched this, without knowing anything that happened in the future, I saw Ahsoka living after fighting Darth Vader, where it seems like she should not have lived, and then walking into a dark tunnel. I thought that meant she went to the dark side. And I mean, you've seen Mandalorian, so that's not true. But you can see there is a lot of metaphorical things going on there, and they do get answered in the future. But it's kind of hard to explain. I'm kind of curious of what Rex thinks, because he hasn't seen. I don't think. Have you seen all of Rebels yet, Rex? I keep forgetting.
No.
What did you think?
I just had a more simplistic thought of just like, okay, they had like a rough battle and they had to leave because the temple was like falling apart, or she escaped barely, or maybe that he took it a little easy on her.
I think it's a combination of everything everyone's already said. Like, because I 1000% stick to the idea that if Vader, I mean, we've seen him pick up people with the Force and, you know, choke them to death with little to no effort, you know, through screens, through projector screens. Like, you failed me for the last time, Admiral. You know, that whole scene where he's not even doing it. He's not even trying. You're telling me he couldn't have just choked her out right then if he wanted to. I don't know. It's just, there's so many things. Go ahead, Rex.
No, I think she's really strong. I don't think you can just, from what I've seen, I don't think just because you're super strong in the dark side that you can just force choke anyone you want. Like, there is some resistance.
And there is more to Jedi versus Sith combat than them just swinging lightsabers at each other. There's a lot of anticipation with the Force and them fighting themselves fighting each other with the Force, and almost like having to like battle each other mentally as much as they are physically.
Go ahead, Rex.
Yeah, like visually, when you see them do the electricity, you see them block it with their lightsaber, you know, but you don't really see what happens if they were to try to like use the Force to grab someone. If the opponent's like strong in the Force, you don't really ever see that.
Like a Vegeta versus Goku moment type thing where it's like building up in the middle and like they're having a fight. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Mikey.
Yoda did it.
Yeah.
Much to learn. You still have.
He's all.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I don't know. And I guess, you know, it's, the question is just more for like the fun of talking about it. I agree with what Mikey was saying. I think there's some pretty deep meaning there too. Like they could have not showed Ahsoka and then had her show up later. Cause I mean, she's got to show up later in Rebels, right? They could have pulled that card and had, you know, shown Vader just walking away, but they didn't do that. They gave us little tidbits. And I do think
That's true.
you know, they also I kind of see this as they foreshadowed this a little bit earlier in the season with Callus and what's his head? Zeb, you know, like the good guy and the bad guy just kind of yeah, the good guy and the bad guy. That's like such like a 50s phrase. Sorry. The good guy and the bad guy just kind of parting ways because that's just how it happened, you know. And I think you see Vader really worn down as he's walking away. To Rex's point, Ahsoka is not to be trifled with. Like, she's not a Jedi. Like, there is no rules for her. She's like, she just kind of does what she wants. And I don't know. I love that. I think it's awesome. I'm to the point now where I was really excited to start season 2, and now I'm even more excited to start season 3. So I think it's time to wrap this bad boy up and score it. And then we will eagerly anticipate the next time we get together to talk about Star Wars. So Caleb, I'm going to throw it to you. What do you give this season out of 10?
It's an 8.5. I mean, even like I said, the meat is at the two ends, but everything in between is like perfectly good and like watchable on its own. There's nothing here that really jumps out as you as like a flaw, but it's pretty high quality, like animated stuff and some really, really cool points. Especially at the end with the Darth Vader and Ahsoka battle. It's awesome.
Well said.
Also as a side note, I did go ahead and rank my top 10 most important Star Wars characters, and just looking at this list, there's going to be some people that would definitely be mad at me. So looking forward
Who's your number
to that.
one? Who's your number one?
If Ahsoka's even close to the top 3, I'm gonna be devastated.
She's not, Mikey. She's not. Palpatine is number 1.
Oh wow, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a solid take. I like that. That's quasi controversial, but not really if you think about it. If you have a brain, you want to think about it for a second. Go ahead, take a moment, guys. We're gonna let him take a moment. Give me 1 second.
Simmer on it.
You got it. Okay, good. Mikey, what do you give this out of 10?
I mean, it was very solid, but I'd probably give it like a 6.5.
What?
I'm kidding. I just wanted Caleb to look up.
Mikey's like, I didn't watch it.
Point.
I didn't watch it, but I'll give it a 6.
I'll give it the same score Caleb gave it, to be honest, because this is very good Star Wars in my opinion. I love this season, and anything less than 8.5, I don't want to give it a 9 because I feel like that's a little too high, because there was some low points like Rex was saying. I mean, it's not all like pedal to the metal, like super entertaining, but it's still really good, just really good storytelling in Star Wars, and I like it a lot.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rex.
7.5 for me. I just feel like it was really solid. Lost my interest a few times, and yeah, I didn't really care about I don't know, I didn't care about the rebels too much, like the rebel fleet, and that felt weird for me for the story. But yeah, overall it's pretty solid. Like I think a 7.5 is still a decent score for sure.
I feel like that's a fair score, and I'm kind of at the point where like 8.5 feels too generous, but just barely. But also any like a 7.5 feels too low. So I'm gonna go like I think this is a solid like 8 for me, like a solid 8. I'm not a fan of filler, but whenever the filler is interesting, it makes it much easier to watch and much easier to follow. I binged these I was on episode 3 basically from like just a few days ago, and I basically just binged this entire season in like 3 days. And as things were progressing, I was like, there were times where it was kind of hard to follow what was going on. And I found myself like kind of asking why. And I do have to give credit to Clone Wars, how they kind of give you a little brief intro as to what's going on and where you're at and like how things are happening. And I kind of miss that in this show, because I feel like that extra 30 seconds of context could really do it a lot of good. But in the end, I don't think it really necessarily hurts any of these episodes from being good. And I do think there's some very, very touching moments in these filler episodes than anything we've ever seen in Clone Wars, or most of what we saw in Clone Wars, to be honest with you. So yeah, I got to go 8 out of 10. Go ahead, Rex.
I just want to agree with you on that point. Like having that, sometimes you're just thrown into whatever's happening and it's a little like you got to figure it out for a sec. And if you're not watching it all in a row, you're kind of like, oh, what happened last time? So something like that could have really helped.
Yeah, I agree. And that, ladies. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
Rex, in your opinion, since you haven't finished either of these shows, if you dropped watching Rebels right now, and I know that you dropped watching Clone Wars, which one would you be more likely to pick back up? I know it's kind of a tough question, but I'm curious.
Tough one because probably Clone Wars, just because of chronological order.
Gotcha.
And there's more content there, and I feel like I missed a lot more episodes. So I feel like a lot more maybe happens in what I missed.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
But there's like things I know about Rebels that I do want to get to. So
yeah. Okay, cool. I was just interested because I know most of us, I think at one point have stopped watching one of these shows at some point. And I'm just curious because everybody's like, oh, I love this one or I love this one. But I just wanted to know. And I love you.
they both hold their own, I think.
I think they do, but they both do different things well, and I think they both suffer in different areas. The thing that Rebels has going for it is that it's way shorter.
Yeah.
Which is so appealing. Like that is literally, if you would have consolidated the best parts of Clone Wars into 4 seasons like you did with this show, there's no comparison as to which one I would have watched more, I think. I think I probably would have chosen Clone Wars over I think there's a lot of the good stuff in Clone Wars over its 7 seasons is just really, really good Star Wars, and really, I just have a question before you end the show. Why didn't they do more with Cad Bane? Like,
because he's not that good,
dude, such a cool character. I'm sorry.
He's a cool character, but is he integral to the story?
I mean, not necessarily, but I mean,
there's your answer.
Yeah. I mean, they had to make up a new character for, him to be integral to the story.
We should have got the book of Cad Bane.
Yeah, dude, literally. That'd
cool.
be dope if he showed up in Boba Fett's show.
I mean, but who are you gonna? That would be dope. But who are you gonna give it?
Right?
Are you gonna give him like a Ridge Tridge guy the story, or his own show, or a guy from Clone Wars his own show?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Solid thoughts. But it's time to end the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around to listen to the Wannabe Critic podcast. We really appreciate it. If you have any requests for us to talk about things, you're more than welcome to email us at geeklybiweekly1@gmail.com, or you can contact us on the Twitters at Wannabe Critic Productions. We're really excited to continue to create content for you guys, and make sure you check out Raise Energy and Pop Cult USA. I'm one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Caleb, you wanna start the sign-offs?
Adios, amigos. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Mikey, it's your turn now.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing the thing.
I kind of dropped it on you last minute.
This has been Geekly Biweekly. I mean, no, wait a minute. Sorry, wrong show. Bye. Thank you for listening and watching. Peace.
Rex, bring us home.
I don't know what to say, but see you later, guys.
All right, everyone say goodbye.
Again?
Bye.
Bye again.
Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.